Hey everyone, I'm Karla Ukman. I'm so excited that you're all here today, and I am here with Patrice Malloy. And this is another session of our 7-part series, and we are talking about reframing wealth. And before we get into the conversation, I'm going to introduce myself and then I'll let Patrice introduce herself. But I'm Karla Ukman. I am founder and wealth planner of Artemis Wealth Management, and I am not your father's advisor. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm not your father's advisor. What does that mean? That means that I work with women and historically excluded communities where I create a safe space for them to build wealth their own way. And I do that by providing financial planning, wealth building strategies, and just really want to provide the education behind all things finance and empower you so that we can really change generations to come. So I'm so excited to be here with Patrice. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So, hello, everyone. My name is Patrice Malloy. I am the founder of Malloy Management Group. I am not your average accountant, so I focus on empowering women and marginalized women groups to make, master, and multiply their money so that they can create millions at hyper speed. And we do that by implementing and executing accounting and fractional CFO services, as well as strategic tax planning, because we want to make sure that you can keep the money that you make so that you can build an unapologetic and unshakable financial legacy. So thank you for joining us in the next episode of our series. We're excited to dig in and talk about reframing wealth and what that looks like for our women out there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I love how you're talking about, the empowerment of women, and both of us work with women in the other communities as well. And when we're talking about women and money, there's so many things that you and I see when it comes to either being afraid to do certain things, or they weren't shown how to do certain things, or there's just some barriers. So what are the barriers or things that you see when you're working with your clients when it comes to their wealth building?
So I think there's a couple, and I think the first is that people don't know what they don't know. So I don't know if you've heard the saying that you have your knowns, your unknowns, and you have your unknown unknowns, right? So it's like when you have these conversations, typically you're opening their eyes for the first time, to a lot of different strategies, to a lot of different thought processes, and it's a different kind of mindset when you're building wealth, right? So I think that's one of the things that I see. People aren't aware of what's possible when it comes to money and tax strategy. They may not have necessarily been present in some of the conversations that were had, with financial advisors. Maybe if they were married, and typically the husband heads up
Mhm.
the finances and he has those conversations and he sets kind of like the precedents in the home. So that's something that we see too. And I think um, we do ourselves a disservice when we're not part of that conversation, because, when you get information secondhand or you're playing telephone, it's a little more challenging to really get a grasp on what's happening and to be able to, follow the money, if you will. So those are some of the things that I kind of see when I have conversations with my clients. What are you
Yeah.
finding?
Yeah. Uh, you hit the nail on the head when it came to, the husbands, being involved in those conversations. And a lot of times I see women, either they became widowed or they're going through a divorce and they had no idea where the money was.
Mhm.
And there are some huge surprises that come up. And we want to make sure that we're being proactive and asking questions when it comes to the money. And
Absolutely.
instead of just letting your spouse or your partner take full control, having those conversations, especially when you're married, because statistically, women are going to live out the men, and we're going to have to handle the finances without the men. So if we're not in those conversations, in those rooms, it's a huge blow when someone leaves our lives, or and we're going through either a divorce or a death, and we all of a sudden have to take control. And how are we supposed to take control if we don't even know what we have? So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's the number one thing that I see is, just giving, the control over to someone else when it should be a partnership, or at least know what's going on and be in those rooms. Um, what what else do you see when it comes to the mindset, Patrice, of women and wealth?
So again, I think we in one of our first, I guess, or second episodes, we talked about like that debunking myth about women don't know how to handle finances. It's too complicated for me. I'm overwhelmed. But the thing is, I think every woman should be able to understand how to read financial statements, to read, um, the brokerage statements that they get if you have invested or if you're, as a couple you're investing. I think you need to have access. Ask to be able to see what's going on. Make sure that you understand what's happening, what the expectations are with the money, and then what's going to happen when we pass, because the reality is everybody's going to pass you know from this earth one day. So really being clear on what it is that you want your money to do for you. So again, having that conversation, not being left in the dark, is very important. And it's also important to be able to educate yourself and empower yourself to be able to know if something's not right. If something's not mathing the way it needs to math, then you need to start asking questions. And I think, like I said, being a part of those conversations, but also having access. So, password information, login information, being able to go in there whenever you need to and see, how your money is moving is very important as well. So, I definitely say that is something that needs to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And that made me also think about not only having access to those, but a lot of times I hear from women that their husbands or partners, just met with someone and said, "Oh, we're fine. We'll reach retirement." Well, how do you actually know that you're going to reach retirement? That's like one of the biggest events that's going to happen in your life. There's no redos.
Mm,
And if we're not, prepared for that, and you actually haven't seen the plan of how you're going to be able to retire and what that looks like, that is something you should ask for and be involved with.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think just to kind of piggyback upon what you said, I think a lot of times people do not take into account, one, if they do have those retirement accounts, the tax that's going to be assessed on it once you do have to actually take it out. And then two, the cost of inflation. The value of the dollar typically reduces by half every 10 years. So if you're not retiring for another 30, 40 years, what your money does today is not going to be the same as what it's going to do in 30 or 40 years. So again, it's being proactive and planning for that and creating a buffer so that you are actually able to take care of yourself and maintain the same type of lifestyle, at least, right? When it does come time for you to retire. So, yeah, these
Yeah.
are all things that I think should be spoken about pretty deeply and consistently too, and especially as things change in life. Children, are born, children go to college, children are married, we have
Mhm.
grandchildren. So all those, those life-changing events and then what that means from a tax perspective and from a retirement perspective.
Yeah. No, that, and you brought up the whole, being able to retire in the lifestyle that you currently
Mhm,
have. A lot of people also don't think about the cost when it comes to healthcare
oof,
and, you know, um, even transferring assets. So you have, your assets from your own, bucket of money. How is that being transferred to different spouses? Because it's not just, hey, it's automatically going to go to the wife or the husband. A lot of these
mhm,
assets, you have to put a beneficiary. And I have seen where the beneficiaries were never updated and the husband passes away. And
oof,
now the wife isn't getting this money fast because it has to go to probate.
mm,
And that is a way of taking control of your wealth, is understanding how is it going to pass from whatever account holder that is to yourself or to your
mm.
family. So that is something that I see a lot of that is not addressed.
Absolutely. That lends back to another thing we spoke about in one of our first, couple of episodes, and that's that estate and trust planning. So again, being able to make sure that you have the directives about where you want your money to go, when, the value, etc. So that is incredibly important. And then typically, I don't know if people know this too. So probate court or that whole process typically lasts about 3 years. And there's a ton of things that can happen within 3 years in your family. So can you imagine having access, I should say, being able to be awarded millions of dollars, but not being able to access it for 3 years if you're lucky? So, ladies, especially, and gents, it's very important to get ahead of this because, you know, life
Mhm.
happens. And if we're not
Mhm.
prepared, then it's going to be a bit of a rude awakening, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. So,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
I
That's what we've been seeing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that was great. I think this kind of gives people some things to think about
Mhm.
and to take control of their wealth. So, how can people get in touch with you, Patrice?
Ooh, so they can reach me on my LinkedIn page, on my Facebook page at Patrice J. Malloy. You can also reach me on my website at malloygroupinc.com. You can, like we like to say, slide to my DMs, send me a quick message, and then we can set up some time to talk about what's going on in your life and business and how I can support you. So, how can we reach you, Karla?
Yeah. You can slide into my DMs. You can also visit my Facebook and LinkedIn page at Karla Ukman. You can also go to my website at artemiswealth.net and click on the scheduling link. And I also have a scheduling link on my Facebook and LinkedIn pages too for a free consultation. And as I always say, don't worry about who you reach out to. One of us will get you pointed into the right direction. So always just feel free to, send us messages. And it's okay if you don't know who you need to contact first. We'll help you with that.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. As always, it's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
with you,
Yep. Yep.
ladies and
And
gentlemen.
I hope everyone has a great rest of their week and we'll see you guys soon.
Yes, see you guys later. Bye bye.